An average adult human brain is about the size of a medium cauliflower, measuring roughly 15 centimeters or 6 inches in length. It typically weighs approximately 1.3 to 1.4 kilograms. It is surrounded and protected by cerebrospinal fluid which cushions the brain and helps to remove waste. Here is a brief overview of all parts of the brain. We will discuss every part in more detail later in the video. Cerebrum. Responsible for higher cognitive functions, cerebellum, coordinates motor movements, balance, and posture. Brainstem. Controls heart rate, breathing, digestion, and sleeping. Thalamus. Acts as a relay center, directing sensory and motor signals to the appropriate parts of the cerebral cortex. Hypothalamus. Regulates hunger, thirst, body temperature, and the release of hormones. Limbic system. Contains structures like the amygdala and hippocampus and is responsible for emotions, memories, and certain aspects of behavior. Pituitary gland. Releases hormones that regulate several physiological processes, including growth and metabolism. Basal ganglia. Is a group of nuclei that play key roles in movement regulation, habit formation, and certain aspects of cognition and emotion. Corpus callosum. Facilitates communication between the left and right sides of the brain. Ventricles. Produce and circulate cerebrospinal fluid to cushion the brain and remove waste. Now we will discuss all these parts in a bit more detail to understand what are these and how they work. Cerebrum. The cerebrum is the largest part of the human brain, accounting for approximately 85% of its weight. It is responsible for most higher-order cognitive functions and can be described in further detail as follows. 1. Hemispheres. The cerebrum is divided into two symmetrical halves, known as the left and right hemispheres. These two halves are separated by a deep groove called the longitudinal fissure but are connected by a thick band of nerve fibers known as the corpus callosum. Left hemisphere is typically associated with logical thinking, analytical processing, and language. In most right-handed individuals, the left hemisphere is dominant for language. Right hemisphere is more involved with creativity, spatial ability, artistic, and musical skills. It also plays a role in interpreting visual information and processing emotions. Lobes of the cerebrum. The cerebral cortex, the outer layer of the cerebrum, is divided into four main lobes. Frontal lobe. Parietal lobe. Temporal lobe. Occipital lobe. Frontal lobe, located at the front of the brain, it's responsible for executive functions such as reasoning, decision-making, planning, and problem-solving. It also oversees voluntary movement, speech production, and aspects of personality and behavior. Parietal lobe. Positioned behind the frontal lobe and above the temporal lobe, it processes sensory information from the body such as touch, taste, and spatial positioning. The somatosensory cortex, which maps tactile information from the body, is located in this lobe. Temporal lobe. Found on the sides of the brain, near the ears, it's associated with processing auditory information, understanding language and the formation of long-term memories. It also has roles in recognizing faces and processing emotional responses. Occipital lobe. Located at the back of the brain, it's primarily responsible for vision. This includes processing visual information from the eyes, interpreting colors, and recognizing shapes and movement. Gyri and sulci. The surface of the cerebrum is highly convoluted, consisting of ridges, gyri, and grooves, sulci. These convolutions increase the surface area of the cerebrum, allowing more neurons to fit in and enhancing cognitive abilities. Cerebral cortex. This is the outermost layer of the cerebrum and is composed of gray matter. It is densely packed with nerve cells and is responsible for higher cognitive functions, including thinking, perceiving, producing and understanding language. The thickness and structure of the cerebral cortex can vary across individuals and has been associated with various cognitive abilities and personality traits. White matter. Located beneath the cerebral cortex, white matter is made up of myelinated or insulated axons, which are nerve fibers that connect different parts of the brain to each other. The myelin gives this region its white appearance and helps accelerate the transmission of signals between neurons. Basal ganglia. Though often considered separately, the basal ganglia are a group of nuclei deep within the cerebrum. They play a crucial role in movement regulation, habit formation, and certain aspects of cognition and emotion. Limbic system. Also nested within the cerebrum, this system comprises the amygdala, hippocampus, and other structures vital for emotion, behavior, and long-term memory. The cerebrum, with its intricate structures and networks, is central to human consciousness, enabling us to think, learn, create, and experience emotions. It remains a focal point in neuroscience research as we strive to unravel the mysteries of human cognition and behavior. Cerebellum. The cerebellum, often referred to as the little brain due to its appearance and size relative to the cerebrum, is an essential structure located underneath the occipital lobes of the cerebrum at the back of the brain. Here's a detailed breakdown of cerebellum. Structure and functions. The cerebellum is divided into two hemispheres, similar to the cerebrum, and has a finely convoluted surface, which helps maximize its surface area. These convolutions are made up of folds known as folia. In the middle, a narrow worm-like structure called the vermis connects the two hemispheres. The cerebellum plays a key role in fine-tuning motor activities. While the cerebrum might initiate a movement, the cerebellum makes adjustments to ensure the movement is smooth and precise. It helps maintain balance and proper posture, particularly when the body is in motion. The cerebellum is essential for tasks that require practice and repetition, such as riding a bicycle or playing a musical instrument. More recent research has revealed the cerebellum's involvement in certain cognitive and emotional functions. This includes processes like attention, language, and regulating fear and pleasure responses. Layers. The cerebellar cortex, which is the outer layer of the cerebellum, is made up of three distinct layers. Molecular layer. The outermost layer containing few neurons but many extensions from other cells. Purkinje layer. Contains Purkinje cells, large neurons that send inhibitory projections to the deep cerebellar nuclei. Granular layer. The innermost layer made up of tiny granule cells that send excitatory projections up to the molecular layer. Deep cerebellar nuclei. Embedded within the cerebellum are clusters of gray matter known as the deep cerebellar nuclei. These serve as the primary output cantors of the cerebellum, communicating its processed information to other brain regions. Peduncles. The cerebellum communicates with other parts of the brain via three paired structures known as peduncles. Superior cerebellar peduncle. Connects the cerebellum to the midbrain and thalamus, primarily carrying output from the cerebellum to other brain regions. Middle cerebellar peduncle. Connects the cerebellum to the pons and is the primary input route to the cerebellum. Inferior cerebellar peduncle. Connects the cerebellum to the medulla oblongata, facilitating both input and output between the cerebellum and other brain regions. Despite cerebellum's smaller size compared to the cerebrum, the cerebellum contains more neurons and plays a crucial role in a variety of tasks, ensuring they are executed with precision and grace. Brainstem. The brainstem is located at the base of the brain. It serves as the bridge connecting the cerebrum and cerebellum to the spinal cord. The brainstem is critical for basic life functions, such as breathing, heart rate, and blood pressure. It's involved in reflexes, including those that regulate balance and hearing. It plays a role in regulating the sleep-wake cycle. The brainstem serves as a conduit, with ascending tracts transmitting sensory information to the brain and descending tracts sending motor information to the body. Cranial nerves 3 through 12 originate from the brainstem, controlling functions such as facial expressions, swallowing, and sensation in the face. Here's a detailed look at brainstem. Components. The brainstem can be divided into three main structures, each with specific features and functions. Midbrain or mesencephalon. The most superior portion of the brainstem, the midbrain, is located beneath the thalamus and above the pons. Prominent structures include the cerebral peduncles, which contain motor and sensory tracts, and the corpora quadrigemina, composed of the superior and inferior colliculi. The superior colliculi are involved in visual reflexes, while the inferior colliculi are associated with auditory processing. The midbrain houses the red nucleus, involved in motor coordination, and the substantia nigra, which plays a role in reward and movement. The midbrain contains nuclei for cranial nerves 3 and 4. Pons. Positioned between the medulla and the midbrain, the pons appears as a bulging region on the anterior part of the brainstem. It primarily acts as a relay station, transmitting information between the cerebrum, cerebellum, and spinal cord. The pons also plays a role in regulating the sleep-wake cycle and houses nuclei for cranial nerves 5 through 8. Medulla oblongata. Located closest to the spinal cord, the medulla oblongata is the most inferior part of the brainstem. It regulates several vital and involuntary functions, such as heartbeat, blood pressure, and respiration. Any significant damage to this region can be life-threatening. It also contains the pyramids, which are two elongated ridges on its anterior surface where motor fibers cross over or decussate. This decussation is why each hemisphere of the brain controls the opposite side of the body. The medulla also houses nuclei for cranial nerves 8 through 12. Reticular formation. Spanning the length of the brainstem, the reticular formation is a network of interconnected neurons. It's vital for consciousness, sleep regulation, and overall alertness. Damage to this area can result in coma. The reticular formation also filters sensory input to decide what information is relayed to the cerebral cortex. Thalamus. The thalamus is located in the center of the brain, just above the brainstem, and is nestled between the cerebral cortex and the midbrain. Each hemisphere of the brain contains a thalamus. It is composed of two symmetrical egg-shaped masses of gray matter, and these are surrounded by a thin layer of white matter called the external medullary lamina. It performs various functions. Relay station. One of the primary roles of the thalamus is to relay sensory information from peripheral receptors and the spinal cord to the appropriate regions of the cerebral cortex. It processes and transmits inputs from all the senses, except smell, to associated cortical areas. Motor functions. The thalamus also receives information from the cerebellum and basal ganglia and relays it to the motor areas of the cerebral cortex, aiding in the coordination and modulation of movement. Sleep and wakefulness. It's involved in regulating states of sleep and wakefulness. The thalamus plays a role in controlling the sleep spindle activity during the sleep cycle. Consciousness. The thalamus contributes to consciousness and alertness, particularly through its connections with the cerebral cortex and the reticular formation in the brainstem. Pain perception. The thalamus is also involved in processing pain signals and can modulate the perception of pain. Hypothalamus. The hypothalamus is a small but crucial region of the brain that plays an integral role in connecting the nervous system to the endocrine system via the pituitary gland. The hypothalamus is located below the thalamus, approximately above the pituitary gland, and forms the lower walls and floor of the third ventricle in the brain. It's about the size of an almond and consists of various nuclei and nerve fibers. The hypothalamus is connected to many parts of the central nervous system, including the cerebral cortex, thalamus, basal ganglia, and limbic system. The pituitary gland is attached to the hypothalamus by the infundibulum, or pituitary stalk. Through this connection, the hypothalamus can regulate a wide variety of bodily functions by influencing hormone release from the pituitary. Hypothalamus perform various functions, for example, endocrine system regulation, autonomic nervous system regulation, temperature regulation, hunger and thirst regulation, sleep-wake cycles and circadian rhythms, emotion and behavior, and memory. Limbic system. The limbic system is a collection of structures in the brain involved in various functions including emotion, behavior, motivation, long-term memory, and olfaction. Limbic system is a group of interconnected structures. Here are some of the primary components. Amygdala. A small, almond-shaped set of neurons located deep within the brain's medial temporal lobe. It's key in processing emotions, especially those related to fear and pleasure. Hippocampus. Located in the medial temporal lobe, the hippocampus plays a critical role in forming new memories and connecting emotions and senses, such as smell and sound, to memories. Thalamus. While primarily a relay station for sensory and motor signals to the cerebral cortex, the thalamus does have connections with the limbic system and is involved in some of its functions, especially in relaying sensory information. Hypothalamus. Situated beneath the thalamus, the hypothalamus regulates vital functions like hunger, thirst, body temperature, and sleep. It also helps in controlling mood and emotions and is integrally linked to the endocrine system. Cingulate gyrus. An arc-shaped region that plays a role in regulating aggressive behavior and linking behavioral outcomes to motivation. Parahippocampal gyrus. Surrounding the hippocampus, this region plays a role in memory encoding and retrieval. Basal ganglia. While often associated with movement, the basal ganglia have connections to the limbic system and play a role in certain emotional and cognitive functions. Olfactory bulbs. These are involved in the sense of smell, which can evoke strong emotional responses and memories. Pituitary gland. The pituitary gland, often termed the master gland, is a small, pea-sized structure that plays a crucial role in the human endocrine system. The pituitary gland is situated at the base of the brain, right below the hypothalamus, and is housed within a bony structure called the sella turcica of the sphenoid bone. It is attached to the hypothalamus by a thin stalk known as the infundibulum or pituitary stalk. The gland is divided into two primary sections, the anterior pituitary, or adenohypophysis, and the posterior pituitary, or neurohypophysis. Anterior pituitary, adenohypophysis. This lobe synthesizes and releases several hormones, regulated by releasing and inhibiting hormones sent from the hypothalamus via a portal blood system. Hormones produced and released by the anterior pituitary include growth hormone, thyroid-stimulating hormone, adrenocorticotropic hormone, follicle-stimulating hormone, luteinizing hormone, prolactin, endorphins and enkephalins. Posterior pituitary, neurohypophysis. Unlike the anterior pituitary, which produces hormones, the posterior pituitary stores and releases hormones produced by the hypothalamus. Hormones released by the posterior pituitary include oxytocin and vasopressin. Basal ganglia. The basal ganglia are a group of nuclei located deep within the cerebral hemispheres that play crucial roles in a range of functions, including the control of voluntary motor movements, procedural learning, habit formation, and emotion, among others. The basal ganglia are composed of several interconnected nuclei, which includes striatum, globus pallidus, subthalamic nucleus, and substantia nigra. The basal ganglia have several pathways that process and relay information. Direct pathway, indirect pathway, hyperdirect pathway. Proper balance between these pathways is crucial for smooth motor control. Function. Basal ganglia perform several functions, which include motor control. The basal ganglia, in coordination with the cerebral cortex, thalamus, and brainstem, help smooth out and coordinate movements. They're involved in the initiation and termination of movements, ensuring movements are fluid and purposeful. Procedural learning. They play a role in the learning of routines or sequences, especially motor sequences. Emotions and behavior. The basal ganglia are connected to the limbic system and have been implicated in the control of emotional behaviors and responses. Cognitive functions. They contribute to certain aspects of cognitive processing, decision-making, and task switching. Corpus callosum. The corpus callosum is the largest bundle of nerve fibers in the brain that connects the left and right hemispheres, allowing them to communicate and coordinate with one another. Anatomy and structure. The corpus callosum lies beneath the cerebral cortex, arching around the lateral ventricles. It is composed of over 200 million axonal projections, facilitating the transfer of information, integration of motor, sensory, and cognitive performances between the cerebral hemispheres. The corpus callosum can be segmented into different regions based on its anterior to posterior orientation. Rostrum, genu, body or trunk, and splenium. Functions. Corpus callosum performs several functions, which include interhemispheric communication. Its primary role is to integrate motor, sensory, and cognitive information between the two hemispheres. For instance, sensory information received in one hemisphere can be shared with the opposite hemisphere to produce coordinated motor outputs. Facilitate learning. It's believed to play a role in the sharing of learning and memory processes between hemispheres. Redundancy and recovery. In cases of cerebral damage, like a stroke, to one hemisphere, the corpus callosum may facilitate compensation by transferring functions to undamaged areas in the opposite hemisphere. Ventricles. The ventricles of the brain are a connected system of cavities filled with cerebrospinal fluid, CSF. These cavities not only serve as a reservoir for CSF but also play a role in its circulation and in cushioning the brain. Anatomy and structure. The ventricular system comprises four main ventricles. Lateral ventricles, first and second ventricles. These are the largest of the ventricles and are found within each hemisphere of the cerebral cortex, having a curved, horseshoe-like shape. Each lateral ventricle consists of a central body and three protruding horns, the anterior or frontal, posterior or occipital, and inferior or temporal horns. Third ventricle. This is a narrow, funnel-shaped cavity located in the midline, between the left and right thalamus. It's connected to each lateral ventricle by the interventricular foramen or foramen of Monro. Fourth ventricle. Located between the pons and the cerebellum. It communicates with the third ventricle above through the cerebral aqueduct or aqueduct of Sylvius. Function. Cerebrospinal fluid or CSF production. The ventricles are lined by ependymal cells, and within the ventricles, specialized structures called choroid plexuses produce CSF. Brain protection. CSF acts as a cushion, providing a protective layer for the brain against trauma. The fluid also helps maintain intracranial pressure, which is crucial for normal brain function. Nutrient and waste transport. CSF facilitates the exchange of nutrients and waste products between the brain and the blood. This was the basic overview of human brain, its components, and functions which brain and its components perform. We will go in more detail in some other video. In this video, we will talk about neck and head muscles or their lateral flexion. Lateral flexion of the neck and head refers to the movement where the head tilts towards one shoulder, bringing the ear closer to the shoulder on the same side. The lateral flexion of the neck and head involves the coordinated action of several muscles. Sternocleidomastoid. This muscle is one of the primary muscles involved in lateral flexion of the neck. It is located on each side of the neck and originates from the sternum and clavicle and inserts into the mastoid process of the temporal bone. When contracted on one side, it tilts the head towards that side. Scalene muscles. The scalene muscles, including the anterior, middle, and posterior scalene muscles, assist in lateral flexion of the neck. These muscles are located on the sides of the neck and connect the cervical vertebrae to the upper ribs. Their contraction helps to tilt the neck laterally. Splenius muscles. The splenius muscles, consisting of the splenius capitis and splenius cervicis, are deep muscles located in the back of the neck. They extend from the vertebrae of the upper back and lower neck to the base of the skull. When contracted, these muscles assist in lateral flexion of the neck and head. Levator scapulae. The levator scapulae muscle is located on the side and back of the neck. It runs from the upper cervical vertebrae to the scapula. When contracted, it assists in elevating the scapula and contributes to lateral flexion of the neck. These muscles work in a coordinated manner to produce lateral flexion of the neck and head. When the muscles on one side of the neck contract, they create a bending force that tilts the head towards that side. The opposite side muscles may also provide some resistance to control the movement and maintain stability. The human ear is a complex organ responsible for hearing and balance. It is divided into three main sections: the outer ear, the middle ear, and the inner ear. Each part plays a crucial role in the process of hearing and maintaining equilibrium. Outer ear. Pinna or auricle, the visible part of the ear that is on the outside of the head. It's made of cartilage and skin and is shaped to capture sound waves and funnel them into the ear canal. Ear canal or external auditory meatus, a tube-like structure that leads from the pinna to the eardrum. It helps to further direct sound waves towards the eardrum. Middle ear. Tympanic membrane or eardrum, a thin, cone-shaped membrane that separates the outer ear from the middle ear. It vibrates when sound waves hit it, converting these waves into mechanical vibrations. Ossicles, three tiny bones in the middle ear called the malleus, incus, and stapes. These bones are the smallest in a human body and they amplify and transmit the vibrations from the eardrum to the inner ear. Inner ear. Cochlea, a spiral-shaped, fluid-filled tube that is responsible for converting mechanical vibrations into electrical signals that the brain interprets as sound. It contains tiny hair cells that move in response to fluid vibrations, creating nerve impulses. Vestibular system. This includes the semicircular canals and the otolithic organs, utricle and saccule, which are crucial for balance. These structures detect changes in head position and movement, helping to maintain equilibrium. Let's start with the outer ear. It has two main components which are pinna and ear canal. Pinna. The pinna, also known as the auricle, is the visible part of the ear that is located on the outside of the head. It's a key component of the outer ear and plays an important role in the hearing process. Here are some details about the pinna. Structure and composition. The pinna is primarily made up of cartilage covered by skin. The cartilage gives it a firm yet flexible structure. It has a unique, complex shape with ridges and folds, such as the helix, the lobule, and the tragus. Function in hearing. The primary function of the pinna is to capture sound waves from the environment and funnel them into the ear canal towards the eardrum. Its shape is designed to efficiently collect and direct sound. Different parts of the pinna help in gathering sounds coming from various directions, which is important for locating the source of a sound in the environment. Role in sound localization. The pinna plays a significant role in vertical sound localization, determining whether a sound is coming from above, below, or at the same level as the listener. The folds and contours of the pinna affect sound waves differently depending on their origin, creating subtle changes in the sound that help the brain determine the sound's location. Individual variation. The shape and size of the pinna vary greatly among individuals, and these variations can affect the way sound is perceived. Despite these differences, the basic function of sound collection and direction remains consistent. Non-hearing functions. The pinna also contributes to the aesthetic and facial identity of an individual. It can be a site for adornment, such as earrings, which is a common cultural practice across many societies. Limitations. While the pinna is important for sound collection and localization, it does not play a role in the actual processing of sound. This is done by the inner parts of the ear and the brain. Ear canal or external auditory meatus. The ear canal, also known as the external auditory meatus, is a key component of the outer ear and plays a crucial role in the hearing process. Here's a detailed explanation of its structure and function. Structure. The ear canal is a tube-like passage approximately 2.5 centimeters, 1 inch, in length in adults, leading from the outer ear to the eardrum. It is slightly curved in shape, which helps protect the eardrum by preventing direct entry of foreign objects. The outer third of the canal is made of cartilage, similar to the pinna, while the inner two-thirds consist of bone. The bony part is surrounded by a thin layer of skin. Lining. The skin lining the ear canal contains hair follicles and glands that produce earwax, cerumen. This wax plays several important roles in ear health. Function in hearing. The primary function of the ear canal is to conduct sound waves from the outer ear to the eardrum. Its shape and length are designed to amplify these sound waves and optimize their transmission. Protection. Earwax produced in the ear canal has protective properties. It traps dust, dirt, and other particles, preventing them from reaching and potentially damaging the eardrum. The wax also has antibacterial and antifungal properties, helping to keep the ear canal healthy. The slight curve of the canal, along with the presence of hair, also helps in protecting the deeper structures of the ear from foreign objects and insects. Maintenance of ear health. Normally, the ear canal is self-cleaning. Earwax and debris gradually move out of the canal due to the movement of the jaw, like when chewing, eventually drying up and falling out of the ear. Over-cleaning or using inappropriate objects to clean the ear can disrupt this natural process and lead to problems like impaction, irritation, or infection. Sensitivity. The skin in the ear canal is thin and sensitive, making it susceptible to irritation and infection. Conditions like otitis externa, swimmer's ear, can occur due to inflammation or infection of the ear canal. Resonance. The ear canal also contributes to the resonance of sound frequencies, particularly those important for understanding speech. This resonance enhances certain frequencies, making it easier to hear and interpret spoken words. Lobule, earlobe. Structure. Composition. Unlike the rest of the pinna, the earlobe contains no cartilage. It is composed of connective and adipose tissue, making it soft and pliable. Variability. Earlobes vary greatly among individuals in size, shape, and whether they are free or attached. Function. Cultural and cosmetic. The earlobe doesn't have a direct role in hearing. Its significance is more cultural and cosmetic, often being a site for jewelry, earrings, and body modification. Genetic marker. The characteristic of having attached or detached earlobes is a commonly cited example of a simple genetic trait. Middle ear. Middle ear have two major components, tympanic membrane and ossicles. Tympanic membrane or eardrum. The tympanic membrane, commonly known as the eardrum, is a critical component of the human ear, playing an essential role in the process of hearing. Here's a detailed explanation of its structure, function, and importance. Structure. The eardrum is a thin, semi-transparent membrane that separates the outer ear from the middle ear. It's roughly oval in shape and measures about 8 to 10 millimeters in diameter in adults. The membrane is composed of 3 layers. The outer layer is continuous with the skin lining the ear canal. The middle layer is fibrous and gives the eardrum its strength and ability to vibrate. The inner layer is mucous membrane, similar to the lining of the middle ear. Function in hearing. The primary function of the eardrum is to convert sound waves that travel through the air into mechanical vibrations. When sound waves enter the ear canal, they strike the eardrum and cause it to vibrate. The frequency and intensity of these vibrations correspond to the frequency and loudness of the sound waves. These vibrations are then transmitted to the 3 small bones, ossicles, in the middle ear, the malleus, incus, and stapes. Role in middle ear protection. The eardrum acts as a barrier, protecting the delicate structures of the middle ear from foreign objects, bacteria, and water that could enter through the ear canal. It also helps to maintain the proper pressure balance between the external environment and the middle ear, which is crucial for the proper functioning of the middle ear bones. Sensitivity and damage. The eardrum is sensitive and can be damaged by various factors, such as loud noises, sudden pressure changes, infections, or physical trauma, like poking it with a cotton swab or other object. A perforated eardrum, a tear or hole in the eardrum, can lead to hearing loss, pain, and increased susceptibility to ear infections. Healing. In many cases, a damaged eardrum can heal on its own, but severe tears may require medical intervention, such as surgery. Diagnostic relevance. Examination of the eardrum can provide valuable information about the health of the ear. Changes in its appearance can indicate various conditions, such as infections, fluid in the middle ear, or eardrum perforation. Effect on hearing. The efficiency of sound transmission through the eardrum is crucial for normal hearing. Any alteration in its structure or function can lead to conductive hearing loss. Ossicles. The ossicles are a group of 3 tiny bones in the middle ear, known as the malleus, incus, and stapes. They are the smallest bones in the human body and play a crucial role in the process of hearing by transmitting sound vibrations from the eardrum to the inner ear. Here's a detailed explanation of each ossicle and their collective function. Malleus or hammer. The malleus is the first of the 3 ossicles and is attached to the inner surface of the tympanic membrane, eardrum. It resembles a hammer in shape, with a long handle attached to the eardrum and a head that connects to the next bone, the incus. When sound waves cause the eardrum to vibrate, these vibrations are transferred to the malleus. Incus or anvil. The incus is the middle bone, situated between the malleus and stapes. It has an anvil-like shape and serves as a bridge for transmitting vibrations from the malleus to the stapes. The joint between the malleus and incus allows efficient transmission and amplification of these vibrations. Stapes or stirrup. The stapes is the smallest and last of the ossicles, named for its stirrup-like shape. It has a footplate that fits into the oval window, a membrane-covered opening to the inner ear. Vibrations transmitted to the stapes cause the footplate to move in and out of the oval window, creating waves in the fluid of the inner ear or cochlea. Collective function of the ossicles. Transmission and amplification. The primary function of the ossicles is to transmit sound vibrations from the eardrum to the inner ear. As the vibrations move from the larger surface area of the eardrum to the smaller area of the stapes footplate, they are amplified. This amplification is crucial for efficient hearing, as the sound waves need to be strong enough to create waves in the fluid of the cochlea. Impedance matching. The ossicles also play a role in impedance matching between the air in the external auditory canal and the fluid of the cochlea. Impedance matching ensures that most of the sound energy is transferred into the inner ear rather than being reflected and lost, which is important for the sensitive process of converting sound waves into neural signals. Protection. The ossicular chain has a protective mechanism against excessively loud sounds. The muscles attached to the malleus and stapes, the tensor tympani and stapedius muscles, respectively, can contract reflexively in response to loud sounds, reducing the transmission of sound energy to the inner ear and helping to protect it from damage. Inner ear. Inner ear consists of cochlea and vestibular system. Cochlea. The cochlea is an intricate and essential component of the inner ear, playing a critical role in the auditory system. It is responsible for converting mechanical sound vibrations into electrical signals that the brain can interpret as sound. Here's a more detailed look at its structure and function. Structure of the cochlea. Spiral shape. The cochlea is a spiral-shaped, coiled tube resembling a snail shell. It makes about 2.5 turns around a central bony pillar called the modiolus. Internal division. Inside, the cochlea is divided along its length by 2 membranes, the Reissner's membrane and the basilar membrane. This division creates 3 parallel, fluid-filled chambers or canals, the scala vestibuli, scala media, cochlear duct, and scala tympani. Scala vestibuli and scala tympani. These 2 chambers are filled with a fluid called perilymph, which is similar in composition to cerebrospinal fluid. The scala vestibuli begins near the oval window, where the stapes bone transmits sound vibrations into the cochlea. The scala tympani ends at the round window, another membrane-covered opening that allows for fluid displacement within the cochlea. Scala media or cochlear duct. The scala media contains a different fluid called endolymph, which is rich in potassium and crucial for the transduction process. It houses the organ of Corti, the sensory organ of hearing. Organ of Corti. Located on the basilar membrane, it contains rows of sensory hair cells and supporting cells. Above the hair cells is the tectorial membrane, which plays a role in the stimulation of these cells. Hair cells. There are two types of hair cells: inner hair cells, responsible for transmitting sound information to the brain, and outer hair cells, involved in amplifying and fine-tuning sound vibrations. The hair cells have tiny projections called stereocilia that protrude into the endolymph. Function of the cochlea. Sound wave transmission. Sound vibrations enter the cochlea via the oval window, causing movement in the perilymph of the scala vestibuli. Basilar membrane movement. These movements create a traveling wave along the basilar membrane, causing it to move up and down. Stimulation of hair cells. The movement of the basilar membrane causes the hair cells in the organ of Corti to bend against the tectorial membrane. This bending opens ion channels, leading to a change in the electrical potential of the hair cells, effectively converting mechanical energy into electrical signals. Auditory nerve stimulation. The electrical signals generated by the hair cells stimulate the auditory nerve fibers connected to them. These nerve fibers carry the auditory information to the brain, where it is interpreted as sound. Frequency mapping, tonotopy. Different frequencies of sound affect different parts of the cochlea. High-frequency sounds cause more movement at the base of the cochlea, while low-frequency sounds affect the apex. This tonotopic organization allows the brain to distinguish between different sound frequencies. Importance in hearing. The cochlea's ability to perform auditory transduction, converting sound waves into electrical signals, is fundamental to our sense of hearing. Damage or dysfunction in the cochlea can lead to hearing loss, underscoring its critical role in the auditory system. Vestibular system. The vestibular system is a complex sensory system that is crucial for normal movement and balance. Located in the inner ear, it works closely with other sensory systems, such as vision and proprioception, the sense of body position, to maintain the body's position and equilibrium. Here's a detailed look at its structure and function. Structure of the vestibular system. Semicircular canals. There are 3 semicircular canals, anterior, posterior, and lateral, in each ear, oriented at roughly right angles to each other. These canals are filled with a fluid called endolymph and contain a sensory organ called the crista ampullaris. The crista ampullaris has hair cells similar to those in the cochlea, and their movement in response to fluid motion is crucial for detecting rotational movements of the head. Otolith organs. These consist of the utricle and saccule, which are responsible for detecting linear acceleration and gravity. Inside these organs are small crystals called otoliths, calcium carbonate crystals, that sit on top of a gelatinous layer covering the hair cells. Movement of the head causes the otoliths to shift, which bends the hair cells and sends signals to the brain about the head's position relative to gravity and linear motion. Function of the vestibular system. Balance and equilibrium. The vestibular system provides critical information about motion, head position, and spatial orientation. It helps maintain balance and stabilize the eyes and body during movement. Detection of head movements. The semicircular canals detect rotational movements, like turning the head side to side, nodding, or tilting. Each canal is sensitive to movements in a different plane, covering a full range of head rotations. Detection of linear movements and gravity. The otolith organs, utricle and saccule, detect linear movements, such as forward-backward, up-down, and side-to-side motion, and the effects of gravity. They help in understanding the orientation of the head relative to the ground, aiding in balance and posture. Vestibuloocular reflex, VAR. This reflex stabilizes vision during head movements by producing eye movements in the opposite direction of head movement, allowing for clear vision while moving. Integration with other systems. The vestibular system works closely with the visual system and proprioceptive sensors in the body to maintain balance and spatial orientation. Information from the vestibular system is sent to the brainstem, cerebellum, and other areas of the brain to help coordinate movement and balance. Clinical importance. Disorders of the vestibular system can lead to symptoms like dizziness, vertigo, balance disturbances, and visual disturbances during movement. Vestibular function is often assessed in patients with dizziness or balance problems to determine the underlying cause.
Muscles are soft tissues in your body that help you move, stand tall, breathe, talk, and even pump blood. They work like tiny motors, pulling bones or squeezing things inside your body when needed. Types of muscles. There are three main types of muscles: skeletal muscles, cardiac muscles, and smooth muscles. Skeletal muscles are the ones you can control. They're attached to your bones and help you do things like jump, run, wave, or smile. If you decide to lift your arm, your brain sends a signal to these muscles to move. They look striped under a microscope and called striated, and have many tiny control centers, nuclei, to help them work hard and fast. Cardiac muscles are the muscles in your heart. You can't control them. They work all the time on their own to keep your heart beating and pumping blood. They also have stripes like skeletal muscles, but only one control center per cell. They connect very well so your heart can beat in a steady rhythm. Smooth muscles are also not under your control. They are found in places like your stomach, intestines, blood vessels, and bladder. They help move food, push pee out, or change the size of your blood vessels. These don't look striped and also have just one control center in each cell. Tiny parts inside skeletal muscles. Let's zoom in. Each muscle is made of fibers. These fibers are like long ropes wrapped in a skin called the sarcolemma. Inside them is jelly-like stuff, sarcoplasm, filled with even smaller ropes called myofibrils. Each myofibril is divided into tiny sections called sarcomeres. Sarcomeres are the parts that actually help the muscle squeeze and pull. They have two kinds of threads: thick threads called myosin and thin threads called actin. The myosin heads grab the actin and pull it, making the muscle shorter and tighter. This is how a muscle contracts, or works. Two helper proteins, called troponin and tropomyosin, help decide when the actin is ready to be pulled. How muscles move. Muscles work when they get a signal from your brain. A nerve sends a message to a muscle through a place called the neuromuscular junction. A chemical messenger named acetylcholine, ACH, is released. This chemical makes the muscle start an action potential, an electric wave inside the muscle. This wave tells the storage area, the sarcoplasmic reticulum, to let out calcium. Calcium turns on the actin by moving the blockers, tropomyosin, and myosin grabs actin and pulls. If there's enough ATP, the muscle's energy, this happens again and again until you stop the movement. When you're done moving, ACH is cleaned up by acetylcholinesterase, calcium goes back into storage, the actin is blocked again, and your muscle relaxes. How muscles get energy. Muscles need energy to work. They use a special fuel called ATP. Your body gets ATP in different ways. Creatine phosphate gives super quick energy for short efforts. Anaerobic glycolysis breaks down sugar without oxygen. Good for short bursts, but can make you tired. Aerobic respiration uses oxygen to make lots of ATP for long-term activities like walking or cycling. Types of muscle fibers. Muscles come in different styles, each good for different activities. Type 1, slow twitch fibers are slow and steady, great for endurance like marathon running. Type 2A, fast twitch, endurance. Fibers are a bit faster and still last long. Type 2B, fast twitch power fibers are super fast and strong, perfect for sprinting, but they tire quickly. Muscles in the body. Muscles are made of smaller bundles. Muscle fibers are grouped into fascicles. Fascicles are covered by layers called endomysium around each fiber, perimysium around each group of fibers, and epimysium around the whole muscle. All these wrap together and become tendons, which attach to bones and help pull them during movement. How muscles work together. Muscles work as a team. The origin is the part of the muscle that stays still. The insertion is the part that moves. The agonist is the main muscle doing the job. The antagonist does the opposite action. The synergist helps the main muscle. The fixator keeps everything stable. Muscle names. Muscles get their names from different things. It could be where they are, like the biceps brachii in the arm. It could be their shape, like deltoid, which is triangle-shaped. It might be their size, like gluteus maximus, the big butt muscle. It can also be based on how the fibers run, like rectus abdominis or straight fibers. Some are named by how many parts they have, like biceps have 2 heads. Others are named by what they do, like flexor carpi, which helps you bend your wrist. Important muscle groups. Muscles in your head and neck include ones like the masseter, which helps you chew, and the sternocleidomastoid, which turns your head. In the arms, the deltoid lifts your arm, biceps bend it, and triceps straighten it. In the torso, muscles like the chest, pectoralis, abs, rectus abdominis, and back, latissimus dorsi, help you twist, sit up, or reach. In the legs, the gluteus maximus helps you stand and climb. Quadriceps and hamstrings help you walk or jump. Calf muscles like gastrocnemius help you tiptoe. Muscle problems. Sometimes muscles can have problems. Muscular dystrophy is when muscles get weaker over time because of genes. Myasthenia gravis is when the immune system causes muscles to become weak. Fibromyalgia makes muscles hurt for a long time. Strains and sprains happen when muscles or ligaments get stretched or torn. Cramps are sudden, painful muscle squeezes, often caused by not drinking enough water. Muscle growth and healing. Muscles grow and heal in interesting ways. Hypertrophy is when muscles get bigger because you use them a lot, like when you exercise. Atrophy is when muscles shrink because you don't use them. Satellite cells are special helper cells that fix and grow muscles when they're hurt. Overall, your muscles are amazing. They let you run, jump, smile, and even breathe without thinking. Taking care of your muscles with exercise, good food, and rest helps them stay strong and healthy.
Male genital system. The male genital system consists of the internal and external organs responsible for reproduction and urinary functions. This includes organs like the testes, prostate, and penis, all working in tandem to produce, store, and transport sperm, as well as to produce male sex hormones. These organs also ensure the safe passage of sperm during ejaculation and play a key role in the urinary system. Internal genital organs. Internal organs consists of testes, ductus deferens, seminal gland, prostate, bulbourethral glands, and male urethra. Testes and epididymis. Here is a detailed explanation of testes, Leydig and Sertoli cells. Leydig cells, located between seminiferous tubules, are responsible for the production of testosterone, the main male sex hormone. Sertoli cells, on the other hand, are located inside the seminiferous tubules and provide nutrients to developing sperm cells, while also forming the blood-testis barrier to protect sperm from the immune system. Testicle, testis. The testicles are oval-shaped organs that produce sperm and testosterone. They are enclosed within the scrotum and divided into lobules by septa. Each lobule contains seminiferous tubules where sperm is produced. Testes location and descent. During fetal development, the testes descend from the abdomen to the scrotum. This descent is necessary as the testes need to be cooler than the body's core temperature for optimal sperm production. External structures of testes. The testes are covered by several layers, including the tunica vaginalis, derived from the peritoneum, the tunica albuginea, a dense layer of connective tissue, and the tunica vasculosa, which contains blood vessels. Internal structures of testes. Inside the testes are lobules, each containing seminiferous tubules, where sperm production occurs. These tubules are surrounded by connective tissue layers like the tunica albuginea and tunica vasculosa, which provide structural support and protection. Internal structures of testes consists of the following parts. Tunica albuginea. The tunica albuginea is a dense, fibrous layer of connective tissue that surrounds the testis, providing structure and protection. It is a thick, tough layer that forms the outer covering of the testis. Internally, the tunica albuginea sends septae, thin partitions, into the testis, dividing it into lobules. This layer also plays a role in maintaining the shape of the testis and ensuring that the seminiferous tubules are securely enclosed for optimal sperm production. Tunica vasculosa. The vascular layer, also known as the tunica vasculosa, is the innermost layer of the testis, lying beneath the tunica albuginea. It consists of a network of blood vessels that provide nourishment to the testicular tissue. This layer is crucial for delivering oxygen and nutrients to the developing sperm cells within the seminiferous tubules, ensuring their proper growth and development. The vascular layer also helps remove waste products generated during spermatogenesis. Septae, or the septa of testis. The septae are thin, fibrous partitions that extend from the tunica albuginea into the testis. These septae divide the testis into individual compartments or lobules. Each lobule contains 1 to 4 seminiferous tubules, where sperm is produced. The septae not only serve as structural supports but also help organize the internal structure of the testis, facilitating efficient sperm production and transport. Lobules of the testis. The lobules of the testis are small pyramid-shaped compartments formed by the septae. Each lobule contains 1 to 4 tightly coiled seminiferous tubules, which are the sites of sperm production. The lobular organization allows for the efficient production of sperm, as each lobule provides an isolated environment where spermatogenesis can occur. The number of lobules and the quality of spermatogenesis can affect male fertility. Seminiferous tubules. The seminiferous tubules are coiled structures located within the lobules of the testis and are the primary site for sperm production, a process known as spermatogenesis. These tubules are lined with Sertoli cells, which support and nourish developing sperm cells, and germ cells that develop into sperm. The walls of the seminiferous tubules are crucial for the maturation of sperm, which are then transported through the tubules to the rete testis for further maturation before ejaculation. These explanations provide a clear understanding of the internal structures of the testes, particularly their roles in supporting sperm production. Sertoli cells and blood-testis barrier. Sertoli cells not only provide nutrition to the developing sperm, but also form a crucial barrier called the blood-testis barrier. This prevents the immune system from recognizing and attacking the developing sperm as foreign cells. Leydig cells, located between the seminiferous tubules. Leydig cells are responsible for producing testosterone, which is critical for male sexual development, the production of sperm, and overall male reproductive health. Mediastinum of the testis. This is a connective tissue structure located in the posterior part of the testis. It contains the rete testis, a network of tubules that help transport sperm from the seminiferous tubules to the epididymis. Epididymis. The epididymis is a tightly coiled tube that sits on the back of the testes. It stores and allows the sperm to mature over time. Once matured, sperm is transported to the ductus deferens for ejaculation. Ductus deferens. The ductus deferens, or vas deferens, is a muscular tube responsible for transporting sperm from the epididymis to the urethra during ejaculation. It has several parts: the scrotal part within the scrotum, funicular part in the spermatic cord, inguinal part passing through the inguinal canal, and pelvic part inside the pelvis. Scrotal part. The scrotal part of the ductus deferens is located within the scrotum, a sac that holds the testes. This section begins at the tail of the epididymis, where sperm is stored and matured. The scrotal part of the ductus deferens is responsible for collecting sperm from the epididymis and preparing it for transport through the rest of the vas deferens during ejaculation. This part is covered by connective tissue and is essential for initiating the journey of sperm out of the testes. Funicular part. The funicular part of the ductus deferens is located within the spermatic cord, which contains blood vessels, nerves, and lymphatics essential for supporting the testes. This part ascends through the spermatic cord and plays a role in carrying sperm from the scrotum toward the abdominal cavity. The funicular part is particularly important because it passes through the external structures that help regulate temperature and blood flow to the testes, ensuring optimal conditions for sperm transport. Inguinal part. The inguinal part of the ductus deferens passes through the inguinal canal, a passage in the lower abdominal wall. This is a crucial segment because it allows the ductus deferens to enter the abdominal cavity from the scrotum. The inguinal part is located between the superficial and deep inguinal rings, and its position within the inguinal canal makes it vulnerable to hernias, which is a common medical issue related to this area. Pelvic part. The pelvic part of the ductus deferens is the segment that enters the pelvic cavity after exiting the inguinal canal. It travels along the lateral wall of the pelvis, running close to the bladder before joining the duct of the seminal gland to form the ejaculatory duct. This part dilates at its distal end to form the ampulla of the ductus deferens, where sperm can be temporarily stored before ejaculation. Its proximity to the seminal glands allows it to receive secretions that contribute to the formation of semen. Seminal gland. The seminal gland produces 50 to 80% of the ejaculate fluid. This fluid contains nutrients for the sperm and substances that help in sperm motility. The seminal gland's duct fuses with the ductus deferens to form the ejaculatory duct. Prostate. The prostate is the largest male reproductive gland, producing about 30% of ejaculate fluid. This gland surrounds the urethra and plays an essential role in male fertility by secreting fluids that nourish and protect sperm. The prostate is divided into several zones, including the peripheral, central, and transitional zones. The transitional zone is particularly important as it's where enlargement occurs. Bulbourethral glands. Located near the base of the penis, these glands produce a lubricating fluid that helps during ejaculation. This fluid also helps to neutralize the acidity of urine in the urethra, ensuring safe passage for sperm. Male urethra. The male urethra is the tube through which urine and semen pass. It is divided into three parts. Prostatic urethra. The prostatic urethra is the portion of the urethra that passes through the prostate gland, and it is about 3 to 4 centimeters in length. It begins at the bladder neck and extends to the membranous urethra. This section serves as a conduit for both urine and semen. The prostatic urethra is notable for containing the openings of the ejaculatory ducts, where sperm and seminal fluid mix before entering the urethra during ejaculation. Another feature within the prostatic urethra is the seminal colliculus, an elevated area on the posterior wall, which contains the prostatic utricle, a vestigial structure, and the openings for the ejaculatory ducts. Surrounding this part of the urethra is the prostate gland, which secretes prostatic fluid, a component of semen that aids in sperm motility and protection. Membranous urethra. The membranous urethra is the shortest and narrowest section of the male urethra, measuring about 1 to 2 centimeters in length. It passes through the urogenital diaphragm, a muscular floor of the pelvis, and is surrounded by the external urethral sphincter, which is a voluntary muscle that allows for conscious control over urination. This part of the urethra is particularly sensitive to injury, especially during pelvic trauma or medical procedures like catheterization. The membranous urethra plays an important role in controlling urine flow and ensuring that urination and ejaculation occur at appropriate times, as the external urethral sphincter provides control over the release of fluids. Spongious urethra. The spongious urethra, also known as the penile urethra, is the longest segment, approximately 15 to 20 centimeters in length. It extends from the membranous urethra through the length of the penis, specifically within the corpus spongiosum, an erectile tissue that surrounds the urethra and helps protect it during an erection. This section of the urethra is divided into two further parts: the bulbar part, located at the base of the penis, and the pendulous part, which runs along the shaft of the penis. The spongious urethra serves as the passageway for both urine and semen, though these fluids never mix due to the actions of the internal urethral sphincter, which closes off the bladder during ejaculation. The spongious urethra opens at the external urethral orifice, located at the tip of the glans penis, through which urine and semen exit the body. External genital organs. External genital organs consists of penis and scrotum. Penis. Here is the detailed structure of penis. Root of the penis. The root is the internal part that attaches the penis to the pelvic structures. It contains the bulb and crura, which are connected to the erectile bodies of the penis. Body of the penis. The body consists of two corpora cavernosa and one corpus spongiosum, erectile tissues that fill with blood during an erection. Glans penis. The glans is the sensitive, rounded tip of the penis. It contains numerous nerve endings and is responsible for sexual pleasure. The foreskin, or prepuce, covers the glans and can be retracted. External structures of the penis. The penis is supported by the fundiform and suspensory ligaments, which attach it to the pubic bone. Internal structures of the penis. The penis contains deep and superficial veins, arteries, and nerve bundles that facilitate blood flow and erection. The corpora cavernosa have spaces that fill with blood to maintain an erection. Scrotum. The scrotum is a sac that houses the testes and maintains a temperature lower than the body's core, essential for sperm production. It contains muscles like the cremaster muscle, which help regulate the distance of the testes from the body based on temperature. So in conclusion, the male reproductive system is not only essential for reproduction, but also plays a significant role in overall male health and vitality. Beyond the production and transport of sperm, the system is deeply involved in hormone regulation, particularly through testosterone, which influences everything from muscle mass to mood. The health of this system can be an indicator of broader physiological well-being, making it important to address any issues such as hormonal imbalances or reproductive complications early. Maintaining a healthy lifestyle, regular checkups, and being aware of potential signs of dysfunction are crucial for long-term reproductive and general health in men. Ultimately, the male reproductive system highlights the intricate connection between reproductive health and overall wellness.
The heart is a fist-sized muscular organ situated in the chest, serving as the body's life-sustaining pump. It consists of 4 chambers, 2 atria and 2 ventricles. Its primary function is to circulate blood, with the right side receiving non-oxygenated blood and sending it to the lungs for oxygenation, while the left side receives oxygen-rich blood and distributes it throughout the body. Crucial to this process are the heart's valves, ensuring proper blood flow. The heart's rhythm is controlled by an electrical system, led by the sinoatrial node. Maintaining heart health through a balanced lifestyle is vital, as the heart tirelessly pumps about 2,000 gallons of blood daily, making it a crucial player in our overall well-being. Let's talk about basic anatomy of the heart. Heart wall. The heart has a strong wall made of muscle called the myocardium. This muscle is covered by layers and protected by a special bag called the pericardium. The pericardium is made of strong stuff, with some layers inside. These layers have a bit of liquid in between them, like a cushion. They help the heart move easily and safely inside your chest without rubbing too much. The heart's muscle has lines inside it called striated muscle fibers. They stretch when the heart fills with blood and squeeze when it needs to pump that blood out. To make the heart squeeze at the right time, there are some special wires inside it. These wires send signals to tell the heart when to squeeze and when to relax. Heart chambers and valves. The heart's interior comprises 2 upper chambers, the atria, and 2 lower chambers, the ventricles. Atrioventricular valves between the atria and ventricles, and semilunar valves between the ventricles and the arteries outside the heart, regulate the direction of blood flow. The right atrium receives deoxygenated blood from the systemic circulation. The right ventricle receives that blood from the atrium, then contracts to eject it through the pulmonary arteries to the lungs. Simultaneously, the left atrium receives oxygenated blood from the lungs via the pulmonary veins. The left ventricle receives that blood from the atrium, then contracts to eject it through the aorta to the systemic circulation. The AV valves open to allow blood flow from the atria to the ventricles. When the ventricles contract, the AV valves close to prevent backflow. Simultaneously, ventricular contraction forces the semilunar valves open, allowing for blood ejection, when contraction finishes, the semilunar valves shut to prevent backflow from the arteries. Cardiac conduction. The cardiac conduction system delivers electrical impulses to the heart and stimulates contractions. Each impulse sets a normal rhythm of 60 to 100 beats per minute. The impulse travels through the heart really fast. It makes the heart muscles squeeze so that your heart can pump the blood. After that, the heart takes a little break. This is called repolarization, and it lets the heart get ready for the next beat. The signal then goes to the top part of the heart, called the atria, and tells them to squeeze. Before it goes to the bottom part of your heart, the signal takes a little break again at a place called the atrioventricular node. Then, the signal goes to the bottom part of your heart, making it squeeze really hard. When the bottom part squeezes, it pushes the blood out to your body through special doors called valves. Doctors can use a special machine called an ECG to listen to these electric signals in your heart. It helps them make sure your heart is working just right. Cardiac output. Cardiac output is like the amount of blood your heart pushes into your body to keep it healthy. It's determined by two things: how fast your heart beats, heart rate, and how much blood it pushes out with each beat, stroke volume. The first thing that affects stroke volume is how much blood is in your heart right before it squeezes. This depends on how much blood comes back to your heart from your body through the veins. It also depends on how big your heart is and how well it can stretch. The second thing is called ejection fraction, which is the part of the blood in your heart that actually gets pumped out when your heart squeezes. This depends on how strong your heart's squeeze is and how hard it has to push against the blood in your arteries. After your heart squeezes, the leftover blood in your heart is called end systolic volume. So, in simple terms, cardiac output is how much blood your heart pumps to keep your body healthy, and it's influenced by how fast your heart beats, how much blood fills your heart before it squeezes, and how well your heart can pump that blood out.
The human eye is a sophisticated optical instrument that functions similarly to a camera. It collects light from the environment and transforms it into neural signals that the brain interprets as vision. Every component of the eye, from its external protective structures to its intricate internal layers, works in harmony to focus light accurately onto the retina, where visual information is processed. External structures of the eye. The external aspects of the eye are designed primarily for protection and maintenance of a clear optical pathway. The eyelids, eyelashes, and conjunctiva are all critical in shielding the eye from foreign particles and excessive light, while also helping to distribute tears evenly over its surface. The lacrimal apparatus, which includes the lacrimal gland and associated ducts, produces and drains tears, ensuring that the eye remains moist and that the corneal surface stays free from debris and pathogens. Eyelids, eyelashes, conjunctiva, and lacrimal apparatus. The eyelids are movable structures that protect the eyeball from mechanical injury and serve to spread the tear film uniformly across the eye during blinking. Eyelashes act as a first line of defense, trapping dust and small particles before they can reach the eye's delicate surface. The conjunctiva, a thin and transparent membrane that covers the sclera and lines the inside of the eyelids, plays a vital role in lubrication and infection prevention. In tandem with these, the lacrimal apparatus produces the tears that not only moisten the eye, but also help remove any irritants, ensuring the cornea remains clear and receptive to incoming light. Internal structures of the eye. Inside the eye, three primary layers form a complex system that transforms light into electrical signals. These layers are arranged concentrically and include the outer fibrous tunic, the middle vascular tunic, and the inner nervous tunic. Outer fibrous tunic. The outer fibrous tunic consists of the sclera and the cornea. The sclera is a dense white protective layer that maintains the shape of the eyeball and provides an attachment for the eye muscles. In contrast, the cornea is a clear dome-shaped structure that covers the front of the eye. Its curvature and transparency are essential for refracting light, directing it through the pupil and onto the internal structures for accurate focusing. Middle vascular tunic, uvea. Situated beneath the fibrous tunic is the vascular layer, also known as the uvea, which comprises the choroid, ciliary body, and iris. The choroid is a pigmented layer rich in blood vessels that supplies oxygen and nutrients to the retina while absorbing stray light to prevent image blurring. The ciliary body, attached to the choroid, produces the aqueous humor that nourishes the eye and helps maintain intraocular pressure, and its muscular components adjust the shape of the lens for focusing. The iris, the colored part of the eye, regulates the amount of light entering the eye by altering the size of the pupil, adapting to various lighting conditions. Inner nervous tunic, retina. The innermost layer of the eye is the retina, a complex, light-sensitive tissue where visual processing begins. It contains photoreceptor cells known as rods and cones. Rods are highly sensitive to light and facilitate vision in dim conditions, while cones are responsible for detecting color and providing high visual acuity in bright light. The central region of the retina, called the macula and within it the fovea, is densely packed with cones, making it crucial for tasks requiring detailed vision such as reading. The retina converts light into electrical impulses that are transmitted through the optic nerve to the brain, where they are interpreted as visual images. Lens and fluid-filled chambers. Behind the iris and pupil lies the lens, a transparent, flexible structure that adjusts its shape to focus light precisely on the retina. The lens's ability to change curvature, known as accommodation, allows the eye to clearly view objects at various distances. Supporting this process are two fluid-filled chambers: the anterior chamber, located between the cornea and the lens, and the posterior chamber, or vitreous cavity, which fills the space between the lens and the retina. The aqueous humor fills the anterior chamber, maintaining intraocular pressure and providing nourishment, while the vitreous humor, a gel-like substance, helps to preserve the eye's shape and keeps the retina in close contact with the underlying tissue layers. Visual processing and the functional pathway. Once light is focused onto the retina, the photoreceptors initiate a biochemical process that converts the light signal into electrical impulses. These impulses travel through a network of retinal neurons, including bipolar and ganglion cells, before being transmitted along the optic nerve to the brain. The brain then processes these signals, reconstructing them into the visual images that allow us to interpret our surroundings. This intricate cascade from the initial refraction of light to the final neural interpretation ensures that the human eye functions as a highly efficient, precise instrument for vision. Overall, the human eye is a marvel of biological engineering, allowing us to perceive the world in vivid detail. From the protective eyelashes to the intricate retina, each component works in harmony to provide vision. Understanding its anatomy helps us appreciate not only its complexity, but also the importance of eye care. As technology advances, so does our ability to prevent and treat vision-related issues, making eye health a priority for a better quality of life.
Why do we have an appendix if we don't need it? For a long time, the appendix was considered a useless body part, something left over from evolution that no longer served a purpose in modern humans. Many people still believe that we don't need it at all, especially because people can live without it. But modern biology and anatomy tell a more interesting story. In this article, we'll explore what the appendix is, where it is in the body, what it may actually do, and why it might not be as useless as it seems, all explained in simple terms so that anyone, even someone new to biology, can understand. What is the appendix? The appendix is a small, tube-like structure that sticks out from the cecum, which is the first part of the large intestine. It's found in the lower right side of your abdomen. In medical terms, it is called the vermiform appendix, which means worm-shaped appendix because it looks like a small worm or finger. It is usually 3 to 5 inches long. Even though it's tiny and doesn't play a big role in digestion like the stomach or small intestine, its structure and position tell us a lot about its past and maybe even its purpose today. Why we have appendix? To understand why we have an appendix, we need to go back to our evolutionary history. Millions of years ago, our ancestors had very different diets. They ate lots of raw plants, leaves, and roots, which are hard to digest. Back then, their cecum and appendix were much larger and acted as a fermentation chamber. In this chamber, bacteria helped break down the tough fibers in plants. But as humans evolved, we started cooking food and eating more meat, fruits, and processed grains. These foods are easier to digest, so our digestive system didn't need such a big cecum anymore. Over time, the cecum shrank, and the appendix became smaller too. Because it became so small and seemed to serve no purpose, scientists thought the appendix was a vestigial organ, a leftover from evolution that no longer had a function. But now we know that's not entirely true. What does the appendix actually do? More recent research shows that the appendix may still have important functions, especially in supporting our immune system and maintaining a healthy balance of gut bacteria. Let's take a closer look at the two main functions scientists now believe the appendix performs. 1. A safe house for good bacteria. Your digestive tract, especially the colon, is home to trillions of good bacteria. These bacteria help break down food, produce vitamins, and protect you from harmful germs. When you get a serious stomach infection, for example, severe diarrhea caused by food poisoning, most of these good bacteria get flushed out of your intestines. That's when the appendix steps in. Because the appendix is a narrow, closed-end tube attached to the side of the cecum, it's protected from the main flow of waste. It acts like a safe storage area where some of these helpful bacteria can hide during an infection. Once the infection is over and your gut is empty, the bacteria from the appendix can come out and repopulate the rest of the colon, helping your digestive system return to normal faster. Think of the appendix like a backup tank for your gut's bacteria, small, quiet, but helpful when needed. 2. Helps the immune system, especially in early life. The appendix contains lymphoid tissue, which is part of your lymphatic system, the body's defense system that helps fight infections and diseases. This tissue is rich in white blood cells, which are the soldiers of your immune system. In children and young adults, the appendix plays a role in developing immune responses by exposing immune cells to different bacteria and antigens. Basically, the appendix may help train the immune system during early life, teaching it to recognize harmful invaders and to build resistance to them. While this immune function seems to decrease as you grow older, it still shows that the appendix has a meaningful role, especially when the immune system is still developing. If it's useful, why can we live without it? This is a great question. Yes, you can live without the appendix, and many people do, especially those who have had appendicitis and needed surgery to remove it. That's why some people think it's not important. But just because you can live without something doesn't mean it has no purpose. For example, people can live without one kidney, tonsils, or even their gallbladder, but those organs all do helpful things. The body is amazing because it can adapt and compensate when one part is removed, especially with good health care, clean water, and proper nutrition. However, in places where people don't have access to clean water or medical care, the appendix might play a more important role in gut health and recovery from infections. What is appendicitis? Appendicitis is when the appendix becomes inflamed and infected. It usually happens when something blocks the opening of the appendix, like hard stool, swelling, or bacteria. When blocked, the appendix fills with pus, a thick fluid full of white blood cells and bacteria, and this causes pain and swelling. If not treated quickly, the appendix can burst, which can spread infection to the rest of the abdomen, a dangerous condition called peritonitis. Symptoms of appendicitis include sudden pain in the lower right belly, fever, nausea and vomiting, loss of appetite. Treatment usually involves removing the appendix through surgery, a procedure called an appendectomy. Final thoughts? In human anatomy, every part of the body has a story. The appendix may be small and often ignored, but it's not useless. It helps protect and support our digestive and immune systems, especially in ways we didn't fully understand until recently. So the next time someone says, "Why do we even have an appendix if we don't need it?" you can confidently say, "Actually, the appendix stores good bacteria and helps our immune system, especially when we're young." Even the smallest parts of the body can have quiet, important jobs.
The human heart is an incredible organ. It begins beating just a few weeks after conception and continues tirelessly, day and night, for the rest of your life. But here's the biological mystery. How can the heart beat continuously without getting tired? Let's explore the science behind this remarkable endurance. First, it's important to understand that the heart is made of a special type of muscle tissue called cardiac muscle. This muscle is involuntary, meaning it works without conscious control, and it's structurally and functionally distinct from the skeletal muscles that move your limbs. Unlike skeletal muscles, which contract forcefully and then need rest, cardiac muscle is optimized for continuous rhythmic contractions. It is built not for speed or strength, but for endurance and reliability. One key reason the heart doesn't tire is its high mitochondrial density. Mitochondria are the organelles responsible for producing adenosine triphosphate, the energy currency of the cell. In skeletal muscle, mitochondria may take up about 2 to 8% of cell volume. But in cardiac muscle, mitochondria occupy roughly 30 to 40% of the cell's volume. This means the heart has an abundant and constant energy supply, allowing it to sustain its contractions with minimal fatigue. Another major factor is the heart's preference for aerobic respiration. Aerobic respiration uses oxygen to produce energy from glucose, fatty acids, and lactate. Unlike anaerobic respiration, which leads to the buildup of lactic acid and causes muscle fatigue, aerobic metabolism is clean and efficient, producing much more ATP per molecule of glucose, and without harmful byproducts. This is why the heart depends on a constant oxygen supply delivered by the coronary arteries. If this supply is interrupted, even briefly, as in a heart attack, cardiac cells begin to die rapidly. Another fascinating feature is the heart's intrinsic conduction system. The heartbeat is controlled by specialized cardiac cells, not the brain. The sinoatrial SA node, located in the right atrium, acts as the heart's natural pacemaker. It generates electrical impulses that spread across the heart muscle, causing it to contract in a coordinated manner. This system is self-regulating, and the heart can even continue beating temporarily when removed from the body, as long as it has nutrients and oxygen. While the heart works constantly, it does rest, briefly, between beats. A full cardiac cycle takes about 0.8 seconds at a normal resting heart rate. Of that, about 0.4 seconds is diastole, when the heart muscles relax and the chambers refill with blood. This brief relaxation period allows cardiac muscle fibers to recover without stopping the overall function. So while it seems like the heart is always working, it is in fact resting between each beat, thousands of times per day. Despite its endurance, the heart is not invincible. Cardiac muscle cells, known as cardiomyocytes, have limited regenerative capacity. That's why damage from conditions like myocardial infarction or heart attack is often permanent, and prevention is critical. A healthy heart relies on proper blood flow, balanced electrolytes, especially calcium, sodium, and potassium, and regular oxygen delivery. Lifestyle factors such as exercise, diet, and stress management directly impact cardiac health. To sum up, the heart doesn't get tired because of its specialized muscle type, its high energy production from mitochondria, its use of aerobic metabolism, and its ability to rest briefly between beats. It is an incredibly efficient, self-sustaining system designed for lifelong function. So while you rest at night, your heart never sleeps. An amazing example of biological engineering in action.